What is up, adventurers, and welcome to a brand new ShawnSetGO video. Today, we're going to be talking about a few different topics, but like we used to do when we started with the War Within, we're going to do a little bit of like a sandwich. We're going to do kind of a not so great, maybe it's getting better, and a it's actually okay. You know, like things are okay, like negative to a positive, and we're going to go across it. We're going to discuss it. Let's talk about it. But the first one I want to talk about, of course, we love to start with our memes, and this one says, it says you're going to hire some of the Addon devs with decades of experience making and maintaining combat add-ons, right? Right? And I think it's, of course, it's a joke, but I think in short, as much as I even want this to be true, I don't think it'll ever occur, just because I think that majority of people who make these made it to a degree because they wanted the freedom to do so. And I think to try to be like now you have to do it now our way, I think would be kind of anti the point of why they made those. But let's look at some of the comments and see what they say. This one says from Feisty Economy. It says the add-on developers do probably have jobs and might preclude them from being hired. These are very successful and complex software projects, so the devs are very likely software devs in their professional life. And honestly, I think this, I guess the thing that's unfortunate is when you have such individualized care with some of these add-ons, like the updates are so frequent. And not that that's a bad thing, but when you take it and then you put it in like Blizzard's schedule, I don't think it works as well. And not to like one-to-one compare, I'm not saying that Blizzard's people aren't skilled. They are probably very skilled. But on the same notion, just because of the content schedule, I wonder if it can keep up, like if it can be as stable or tend to as many players and the changes as much as what we're used to. The problem is getting them to make their own version isn't the goal. It's to reduce the need for them. Hiring them just to replace add-ons would lead to the same problem we currently have. So that is true as well. I think that there's a version of things that where Blizzard goes, we're making add-ons, but I don't think their goal, long term at least, is to keep these add-ons on board. They want to make it to where these things are inconvenient enough to where you go, well, I want to do it on my own. So you should feel incentivized to do it on your own, but they keep them in existence for people with the accessibility needs. I think there's a version of that where it's released right and like slowly you're rewarded more than just to do like the automated way or to use the add-on, to where it can slowly whittle away or people will naturally whittle away from it. But I don't know how long it might be before that's true. So Mobile Shrine Bear says, no one wants to hear this truth. They're trying to kill off combat add-ons to stop them from continuing to distort how they design encounters. Hiring someone to just in-house creates the same problem functionally, doesn't actually accomplish their stated goal. So I mean they want to fix the system too. So adding the essential visual cues the add-ons provided, they were too lazy to provide. At the same notion, I feel it will be Blizzard's excuse for not creating something as good or having something in place that's as good. So let's tinker that statement to say the desire isn't to have add-ons that are equal or as good, but to have something in place that is equal or as good. So if you want to truly get rid of them, totally fine, but can we have something there? The thing is, there's two somewhat distinct goals that are driving this war against combat add-ons. Making it so weak auras can't do high-level calculation, communication, coordination to solve boss mechanics, making it so new or existing players aren't required. So I think the second goal is ambitious, but it's taking away the weak auras from current players because they want number two. It's taking that away so number two can exist. And I think that's where people perceive this as a harm, as a net negative. I suppose my thoughts on this though are that, like, what if you take this, you take all these combat add-ons away, and instead what add-ons makers do, instead of having combat add-ons, you basically go back to the way things were, where macros were the way, and you have add-ons that aren't combat based. They're just like timer based, and maybe the raid leader presses a button to make like when it's in the next phase. Like you use your function keys to do it. to either announce things or to move it to the next line of code. So where it doesn't function automatically, but it functions manually is my thought. So what should Blizzard do whenever that happens? I mean, my thought is that they nip it and they get rid of it, make sure those things aren't available. But I think it gets to the point where those with accessibility needs might stop how much we're taking away. And that if you take away an add-on that is necessary for someone to be able to play the game, then it's like, okay, we have to stop. But then people might abuse it. So it's like this double-edged sword of things. So the add-on talk, I mean, I don't think it's gonna stop for any point anytime soon. But let's talk about some of the things that have changed from Legion that are existent now that may change, things that can get a little bit better, hopefully, with time. So the next post says, this one is by the Kingdom of, no, not, but yeah. This one says APM, this is actions per minute, increase across all DPS specs since Legion. Has it gotten to be too much? For anyone unaware, APM stands for actions per minute. It is the amount of buttons pressed to do optimal DPS in a 1 minute cycle, not including movement. If you compare the APM chart from Legion and the War Within, you'll notice an overall increase in APM. Some classes have remained somewhat the same, whilst others have climbed to absurd amounts. You can see the APMs below to shout out to Simulation Craft for the data. So you can see how here in Legion, Outlaw Rogue with 67, whereas in the War Within, the Fire Mage has 93 actions per minute. And at the lowest, you have 50 with Destruction Warlock, Diabolist, whereas the lowest on the Legion side is 33 APM for Affliction Warlock. So high APM is fine, so as long as you don't run into issues with bloat and clunkiness. For example, Ret Paladin has higher APM than Endurance or Enhanced Shaman, but the Enhanced Shaman has to spin some plates to set up some DPS windows, manage buffs, builders, benders. Ret Paladin can do more or less, just go all out with fairly decent doing the press, whatever isn't on CD, and hot glowy button when it's there. It's kind of similar to how Warrior works, essentially. Play a lot of Enhance, though I skipped the Totemic because F that. But I think most misleading thing about Enhance is that the button glow is kind of fools players into thinking certain stuff is important when it might be low value proc. Once you get to know what's important and what its filler, becomes clear, at least to me. And this is another thing of like combat add-ons, is a lot of those combat add-ons can ignore those things. Of course, if you're doing single button, maybe you could more focus on that and I can help you focus on what's the most important. But I think we need to understand that the reason why we're pruning these classes and trying to make them a little bit more digestible for new players is that we need to make it to where we don't need an add-on or a rotation helper in order to use a particular class and be successful with it. Because right now, like if we're talking from like a warrior's perspective, having to use Whirlwind every 4 casts seems like an easy thing, but whenever you're casting like so constantly and you're literally mushing keys so fast, it becomes difficult to know whether you're on the last swing before your next need to read up your Whirlwind so you can get some sort of cleave, or if you have at least one more left. So it's like it's hard to manage without some sort of combat add-on telling you, okay, well, or some sort of buff tracker to track like how many stacks you have and how much time you have. There needs to be a balance. So Valor says high APM specs are fine as long as the abilities feel impactful, but it can't all be high APM. There are things that are silly. If you're going to make me drink some tea to regen energy, why not bake the regen into passive uptime component? And this is one of those other double-edged swords that I think that people think they want, but they don't, right? The issue right now is that because that's baked into your class, you are expected to know when it triggers and for how long and your optimal window. And so there's so much passives baked into a build instead of just focusing on, hey, let's make this a button so that people can click so they know to click it. Instead, they try to bake it in, they try to weave it in, and it, to me, I think it creates that same level of button bloat that we're trying to get away from. It's unrelated to this thread, but the amount of passive effects in the game has reached a level to where it's incredibly difficult and really understand what's going on in any given moment. Exactly. So reference Paramore says this on my main, sure, but learning on an alt character properly is a real Paul ache because it feels like half of the interactions are buried in the subtext. That's to say, I'd rather have another button that I can press and see what it does than have more stuff baked into passes, which are more difficult to follow. I'm pushing 16s and don't know all the buffs that are my protection paladin is getting. Must be good stuff though. Why else would I spec into it? So yeah, you just read a guide and you figure it out. And so if we're going to make things so where people can make their own builds, they don't necessarily have to follow it to be 100% optimal, but you can make your own and still be somewhat optimal. I think it's important. It's important to making meta guides. If everyone's following the meta guide, there's no experimentation. Everyone's figured it out before the patch was released. And the moment it comes out, the only changes that we get are if, okay, now we understand that in the harder difficulties, we need to have this talent instead of this one, or it's more important to have this one over this one. But there's so little variety in a game that the game just becomes just like this creative, like trench. There's nothing, no joy can escape. So let's talk about the last one here. A little bit of positivity at the end. This one says, World of Warcraft does say delves have received fantastic reception, meaning that they are now an evergreen feature of an MMO to offer a relatively predictable content to players. So Automatic Can says this, posts the article, and the first comment says, in hindsight, I'm honestly surprised how I actually spent time in delves, getting hero track gear. It feels like a fair pace, one piece for one piece vault, one piece delvers bounty per week to upgrade for the mythic tier set. Looks like a neat set look is a neat season goal for my alts. They were announced as evergreen feature, but I'm happy to hear that they were also overall well received by the community. I love having challenging fun is what this person says. The next comment says right after that, I agree it's good, but it needs to be more of a challenge. I think that there should be kind of like a Palace of the Dead for Final Fantasy 14 in terms of tiers. Palace of the Dead goes to 200 make achievement for going to level 20 tier. So you're saying, like Torghast? I think fundamentally what they need to do first is, before anything else, is make them more fair in terms of mechanics, especially on bosses. The fact that anyone could do a final boss of Tecthrathon, provided that they engage with the mechanics of the boss and dodge everything, is a good thing. I mean, yes, I would say though, delves really aren't about mechanics very much. For the most part, it's just adhering to the particular rules of the dungeon, whether that's like putting down a totem or putting down a candle or something like that, and not much else. There are, of course, some cones or some interrupts that you ought to do, but at a certain point, for the most part, you're able to overcome that with gear quite quickly. I think what delves need to be improved, and I'm already seeing a lot of really good things with like the outdoor delves and like new things, is one, for them to be fun, and then two, whenever they scale, you feel like you're not just hitting a bullet sponge. That's what I feel like is happening now, where it's just bullet sponges. Or they make it to where their damage is scaled so high that it's impossible to beat. I'd say like over 2 to 3 tiers above yourself when you're leveling to like when you're trying to just level up your tier levels. It's stupid hard for no reason. I like stuff where there's cool mechanics or cool things that you can do. Like you can pull mobs into a certain explosive spore and it kills them or knocks them down. That to me is neat. I like when they have unique mechanics like that. I think that's a good use of everyone's time when you have stuff like that. I don't know if it's as well received within Mythic Plus because it is such a time sink and it can be so brutal, like how tight the timer can be. But within a delve, when you have all the time in the world and you are focusing on things, it is cool to find those cool little like corners. Like, oh, you find a thing, you get another buff, or you kill a thing, you get something out of it. Point is, I think ultimately what delves need are more loot, more exploration options within the delve, so you can get more out of it in general, and then 3 different ways to challenge players that is still fun, I think is the main thing. But I think it's great to see that delves are being seen by the devs as this being evergreen feature that people do enjoy. Now, that being said, hot take of the video, I think everyone's wrong about the Nemesis thing. I think the Nemesis stuff sucks and has sucked. You could tell me all day that, oh, it's just, it's a DPS check. It's a time management check. It's a just do the mechanics check. Nope. If it feels like it's BS, it's BS. And the most recent one, the Nexus Princess, that was dumb. I didn't like it at all. And the previous one was also dumb with the interaction and the bombs. By the time I got it, it was just, I had well above the gear. and it was just chance. It really was just chance. And you're just hammering your head in the wall. It doesn't feel like skill anymore. It just feels like RNG really. The first season wasn't any better either. It just felt like, oh, I'm gonna do mechanics that send you further away, but the moment you do, I'm gonna shoot you with a cone. Like, okay, like, all right. But anyways, I'm going too much into a rant now. But let's end this video on a positive note. I think all of these things, while they have some negative aspects, they can be turned into a positive. So that's good to me. I think that there's a lot of really cool things that I hope for with the changes that come with pruning, with the additions that come with delves. But add-ons, I will forever stay cautious. I'm not even cautiously optimistic. I think that's too much. I think we need to focus on good design over add-ons, and add-ons will fill the gaps on what design can't provide in the moment. But what do you think? What is the most important thing to you of these three to you right now? And what's the way to make sure that they're the best? What's the thing you enjoy the most? What do you want to make like optimal? Let me know in the comments. And then everyone at me and say, Blizzard, give Shawn access to Midnight Alpha. He wants to complain more, but he'll do it in a nicer way if you give it to him, or something along those lines. Is that how it works? I suppose. But all things considered, thank you for watching the video. Thank you so much. If you clicked on this video, give it a like and subscribe if you got this far. I mean, that's crazy that you're here still. But if you enjoyed this video, we have so many videos that we've put out, no joke, for alpha stuff, and that we're creating like little itty bitty discussions on. So like those videos, click on those videos if you got the chance, because they're not doing anything right now. I think unfortunately I stopped and was talking about Legion Remix too much. So like some of my other videos, they need some love, but there's a lot of really good discussion there that I think is worth listening to, as well as like well-versing yourself before midnight. There's so many different sources, so much different places for that information. So I think it's good to kind of condense that and then create something out of it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for hanging out with me, and peace.